All right, we are back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on this live stream tonight with Dr. Morris Woodley. We'll find out a little bit more about that mystery man. First off, I just want to say to everybody, thank you for helping keep Beyond Vaudeville alive. It's great. You're bringing us new people, introducing the show to new people that haven't seen it before. We even have our own Etsy shop now with such gems as this. The original Beyond Vaudeville sign, is now on a t-shirt at our Etsy shop, Beyond Vaudeville, one word on Etsy. So, let's get into tonight's guest. I first met this gentleman as a student at NYU, and he was there in the very early days of Beyond Vaudeville and was with us throughout, and even appeared on the show as Dr. Morris Woodley. So without further ado, let's please welcome Pete to the stage. Hello, Pete, aka Dr. Morris Woodley.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I did play one on TV.
That's right. We're going to watch that episode together, all of us. We've got, by the way, all of you who are here, feel free to put any questions that you have in the comments, and we'll try to address any questions you have. So in the early days of Beyond Vaudeville, we were kind of experimenting with guests that were kind of pretend guests. I guess it would be safe to say, Pete, that Dr. Woodley was a pretend guest.
Oh, a total put on. As I recall, when you started this, your Rolodex, which is probably the appropriate term for the time period that we're talking about, your Rolodex didn't include that many novelty acts. So occasionally you found yourself in a bind where you just didn't have enough people to put on the show. And I think the first example of that was this friend of ours called Bob, who came on as a, what would you call it, a trainer, a personal trainer. And he had a book that another person who worked on the show named Kathy, she had done up a book jacket, and it was called Body by Bob, which doesn't mean much today, but there was an actual book called Body by Jake that was very popular at the time. And right. This was a takeoff on Body by Jake. And the thing about Bob was, to use his own word, he was very prosperous, which is another way of saying fat. And he did a great job. I laugh to think about it. He came out and he was going to take people, you and others, through some workout, some exercises. And I still laugh to this day because he couldn't touch his toes. He couldn't do a sit-up. He couldn't do whatever it is. I don't remember the exact exercises, but he had you do them. And of course you did them well. And I'm sure he could have really done it, but he did a great job of pretending that he was totally out of shape. And I thought this was a great idea because I liked the notion that some of the guests would be genuine eccentrics and some of them would be put-ons, and the audience would never quite know for sure, is this person serious? Is Suzanne Muldowney, is she serious or not? Is Stryker serious or not? And so I like the idea. As I recall, you seemed to do it more as a sort of a filler because you were kind of in a bind. And once you had a really big Rolodex and once you started to get actual relatively well-known people, I mean, there's some famous people came on Beyond Vaudeville, famous performers. Right. You dropped the whole idea, and I thought that was sort of a shame. But basically, that's what Morris Woodley was.
Well, we'll see, yeah. Dr. Woodley, and we'll review kind of what went on there and what your experience was with the people that were on the show. And I thought we could take a look at some slides to just kind of go back. So this is Dr. Woodley. So Pete, you actually ended up continuing. You were at most of our tapings, often as a camera person, doing cameras for us. And occasionally you made appearances like this one, serving hot dogs to the hot dog eating champ.
Wow. I have no memory of that.
Well, when you went further down the line, you had to give a hot dog to a man who was concerned that they weren't kosher hot dogs. But they were, so everything was okay.
Okay.
But going back, so we had met at NYU and on the Plague, the humor magazine, where a lot of us who started with the show met. And one of the things we did there was run for student government. And I actually was running as president, and David Green was running for vice president, and we were color coordinated and ready for action. This was one of the flyers that we had.
I remember.
You were running for senator, the best senator money can buy. Was that slogan, was that well received by the students at NYU?
Well, I was told by a couple of students that I should really rethink the slogan because it implied that I wanted to take bribes. And of course, that was the entire point of it. I mean, that was intentional, you know.
And then we also had on the ticket for the entertainment committee, our friends Stephen Fish and Stephen Korn, who ended up directing all our episodes of Beyond Vaudeville. And they said a vote for us will cleanse your soul of wickedness, set a good example for America's youth, repopulate.
Popularize, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you read that? Because I have a...
Cleanse your soul of wickedness, set a good example for America's youth, repopularize the word brouhaha, teach the Russians a lesson.
There we go. Okay. I have a little slide over that, so I couldn't see that. And then this was our platform, basically. Plans included free beer, an eternal keg, student government follies, and erotic art shows to titillate the student body, Vegetable Awareness Week, dozens of surprises and special events, specially designed by the Plague minds. So why did this fail, Pete? Why did we didn't win this election?
No, we did not win this election. As I recall, I did particularly badly. Maybe a third of the vote, and maybe you got something like 40% of the vote. NYU students just maybe didn't have quite the sense of humor we were hoping for. I guess is some of them actually thought, bless their hearts, that student government mattered.
Right.
And some of them were genuinely annoyed that we would dare to expose the fact that this was just some kind of resume padding foolishness for when you're applying for a job or to go to grad school. So they didn't like that.
And then similarly, so we would start putting on these shows at the school, which were not typical shows, and that's kind of how Beyond Vaudeville was originally born. This was 1982, and this was the very first show we did, and then it just became this annual event that continued after we had left the school, and this was 1983. We had Miss Finland from 1930, philosopher Joseph Feldman, Stryker. Now, Stryker ended up being on a lot of our TV shows later. Do you have any memories of Stryker?
Well, he was in certain ways, I think, the perfect guest for something like Beyond Vaudeville, which I always thought was a great name that you came up with. But strictly speaking, novelty acts were a part of vaudeville. but this did take it to a new sort of level, because every turn, every act was a novelty act. So that was kind of unusual. And Stryker, what I liked about him so much was his act was kind of ridiculous, and he kind of knew it, but he kind of didn't know it. So he was perfect, because he had enough awareness that this is eccentric, that you didn't feel bad putting him on a show of eccentrics, But he had enough sincerity in what he was doing and enough belief in his performance that he was a genuine eccentric. And so he's like the perfect example of what Beyond Vaudeville was about. He was a singer. I think he wrote his own songs. I think one of them was called Long Island Has Everything.
Yes.
Am I remembering that right?
Jones Beach is the greatest. He did a number of songs about Long Island. Yes.
Yeah. And he was just well, I don't want to repeat myself, but he was just the perfect example of what we were looking for. So what really you were looking for, because it was really your vision.
Well, so we continued to do these shows, and then eventually we started bringing in celebrity talent like Mason Reese in the 4th show, and Danny Bonaducci in the 5th, and Al Lewis.
Yes. And I have to say, as I recall, they were all charming. They all came on. I guess if you had a bad attitude, you just didn't do the show. So anybody who would agree to do this was in a certain category. But I thought all of these celebrities who came on and did the show, I thought they were genuinely nice people and had a really good attitude. And Adam West was a real star. I mean, the audience, as I recall, loved him. And they loved Al Lewis too, but I think those were amongst the best received.
And then we had Sucrete Gable, who was in the news briefly in New York at the time, involved in political scandal, as I recall.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what it was anymore. I don't think I had much of an interaction with her. I have no memory of what that was about.
Peter Tork from the Monkees and Quentin Crisp.
Peter Tork was probably the nicest. I mean, they were all nice, but Peter Tork was a really nice guy, and he connected really well with the audience. He was very, very sort of personable, and Quentin Crisp was he was quite. I mean, he was himself. He was always himself, and. Again, really nice to have him on. And I think what is his famous book? The Laughing Policeman? No, that's not it. It's The Naked Civil Servant. Is
Correct.
That it?
Yes.
Yeah, Naked Civil Servant.
Although The Laughing Policeman would have been a good title for one of his books, I think.
Well, I think that's something else, but okay.
And yeah, I ran into Peter Tork many years later, and just had reminded him that we had met when we did this live show, and the first thing he said was that woman doing that underdog dance serious about that? It was right in the front of his mind.
Yeah, well, and that's the wonder of some of these guests, and of course Suzanne Muldowney, who does not approve of being called underdog lady, but nevertheless is generally referred to as that. Yes, she really made you wonder, like, at what point does it go from put on into seriousness? And I would describe her as 100% serious.
Yeah, having met her many times, you met her many times on the shows, and then we had Ron Horshack Palillo, Barbara Feldon.
Oh, she charmed the audience. They loved her. They loved Barbara. I mean, they liked everybody, but Barbara was a standout.
Pat Cooper, who just passed away. And then the last live show we did at Caroline's with Carol Shia, who was not the laughing policeman, but the naked policewoman who was in Playboy. I don't know if you remember her.
I can't say that I do. What was the date of this? What year was it?
This, what is it, 1994. Yeah. And Yeah, so those were the live shows that we were doing. So I want to fast forward, Pete, to the TV show and your appearance on it. And I thought we could run it and then get your recollections of appearing on the show.
Yeah, I'll be okay if you fast forward through my appearance as well.
So this, we've just masked out the audio on the opening. And then we should have audio momentarily. Okay, so we've got the guests on this show is Chris Deola, who was Joe Franklin's errand boy, Kerima the belly dancer, Dr. Morris Woodley, that would be you.
Yes.
Lots of surprises as always. And
welcome again to the Beyond Vaudeville program, and today is a special show day because now, in addition to my co-host Dave Green, we have another co-host, Mr. Chris Deola from the popular award-winning Change Yourself, Not the World program. Chris, it's a pleasure to have you aboard on the Beyond Vaudeville show.
Thank you, Frank, for having me on the program.
So you're not doing the Change Yourself show anymore, right?
No more, because Bernard's been not feeling so good, so right now, but I found that the station is still running the shows yet of it.
Okay, but lately you've been working for Mr. Joe Franklin. I saw the article in the paper, and you're picking up the dry cleaning and doing
I
just.
do like errands, measure work, and plus I take pictures for Joe Frank. I've been his photographer for a long time, so I was doing the errands and the cleaning and all that. How I met Joe is through Mr. Through Gary Stewart. Well, I met this back in the old days of campaign time, and then through Gary, I met Mr. Rothman first, then Mr. Franklin later on.
Right.
I met Joe in '72, and all through those years, I learned a lot from Joe about doing the radio and everything. But I did my own radio program. He's the best public relations man named Richard H. Rothman. He has a cable show he does too.
We've had him on this show.
Yeah,
He's been on here.
Richard Rothman told me to send regards to you. He said you couldn't make it, didn't feel so good. And Mr. Richard A. Falk told me he couldn't make it too because he had some other problems came up.
Okay.
But I'd like the folks to know if anybody wants to reach to be on this program, so I'll be a guest. You see me, his name is Frank Cope, right, Frank? Beyond Vaudeville, P.O. Box 713.
This address is no longer in place. That should be Planetarium Station. Just wondering.
He has some interesting ideas about words, but maybe we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
And the name of the station, one station is the other part.
Planetarium.
Planetarium, New York 10024. And what is your telephone number? Somebody had to reach to be on your program.
Oh, at 675 Rash. Okay, and you're a nice addition to the show now because Dave is very.
That phone number is also no longer in effect. Our John Walsh, who played our Joey the Monkey, realized that his phone number spelled Rash, R-A-S-H. So we were briefly using that phone number.
Dave is your new co-host. I'd like to welcome you.
Well, Dave, no, all right. David doesn't react well to things, and I think it's good to have you because you're a lot happier than David. And David is.
I know you have a doctor. We got a doctor who's on the wings, and we got the other lady on
a lot of good people coming up today. And maybe you want to start with a song, maybe start the show off?
Joe told me, and he said, I love with your new program and everything. And he told me, and he's happy that I'm working with you.
All right, well, it's great to have you here. And do you want to do a song to start us off or no?
How are you doing with your business? What have you been doing lately?
Well, we've been doing the show, Dave and I, and we've had lots of great guests on. And today.
I heard you do like a vaudeville type of program. That's what it is, because your show is called Beyond Vaudeville, right?
Right. It's a real show business thing, and we get lots of.
I see the background. In the background, there's a lot of different signs and stuff and everything. Right.
Right. All kinds of stuff from all our favorite stars, Michael Jackson and E.T. and Mr. T. And Mr. T. And maybe, should we go over to the puppets and see what...
I'd like to say that later on. Why not we have the doctor come on?
Okay, the doctor... Dr. Morris Woodley, he's a nutritionist from NYU and author of the soon-to-be-published books I'm Okay, My Diet's Okay, and Victory Through Vegetables. Hello, Dr. Woodley. That's Mr. Chris Deola and Dave Green. David is being obstinate today, and he said since there was going to be a nutritionist, he was going to drink his iced tea again with 25 sugar packets.
Have you had your vitamins today?
Well,
You had
no,
vitamins
I
today?
haven't. I don't have vitamins too
Fortunately, I
often.
came prepared.
Frank,
Yeah.
you forgot to mention the other ladies over here, the camera.
Oh, she'll be coming up later, Chris. Don't wait. First, we have to do Dr. Woodley.
I think the doctor has, looks like vitamins, right, Doc?
Yes, yes. Have you had your vitamins today?
Yeah, I think vitamin C, you know, the orange sugar, something like that.
Ah,
C,
all right.
I have a lot of fruit. Now, fruits have very hers in me, right?
Yes.
You
Well,
do
that's
And
good.
this one you're taking now is every, this one is, as I remember,
Those-
that's the Flintstones.
Yes. Well, these are chewable, so
I
you don't
take
need, you
one
don't
of
need.
Pete, did Chris Deola think you were a real nutritionist?
Oh, I think he did, and in fact, we'll get to it in a second. He kind of takes me to task for some of my nutritional advice that I
Okay.
will shortly be giving. But this is a little moment that just flat out didn't work, which is I'm giving out Flintstones chewable vitamins, but you can't see them. So the joke is, I realize now this. I mean, at the moment, I realized the joke wasn't working very well. So I'm going to suggest you offer one to Dave Green to try and save this bit that at the moment is not going well.
Now, David is so he is pouring all this sugar into his iced tea, and
Yes, he is.
and you knew David, you know, at NYU, and he would actually drink massive amounts of sugar in his iced tea, correct?
Oh, this is not a put on. He actually did that, and we would go out as a group after taping. And okay, so we're in New York City, a place filled with wonderful restaurants, but somehow we'd wind up at a Fuddruckers or Jekyll and Hyde, which was a horror house themed restaurant serving really mediocre food, but somehow we would wind up at these places afterwards. And Dave would do this, and I would discuss with him, the fact that if he heated up the water, he could add even more sugar, and we would talk about he could make it super saturated. But he reached the actual saturation point, meaning there eventually he was putting in so much sugar you simply couldn't dissolve anymore. And that's the only thing that stopped him from adding more and more sugar. And it sometimes had some pretty, he had a bad reaction sometimes. But he kept doing it.
I seem to recall that his face would get very red, and there was one time where it seemed like he was going to pass out after drinking a glass with so much of this sugar in it.
Well, I think he drank it very quickly. And I'm pretty sure at least once he had to run to the men's room to throw up.
All right. Well, let's continue on that note.
Any water. Now here's one for you.
Are these? Is this?
It's chewable.
This is Wilma. What is a Wilma?
On TV back at that time, it's very good to chew on.
Okay.
Tough one, it just takes a little while.
Yeah, that's one for you.
It's like a.
Sometimes,
And here, this one to give to your
Doctor.
co-host.
Dave, you want to invite it?
Vitamins
Dave.
no good, right?
Oh, that's
Okay.
certainly true. That's certainly true.
Okay.
Oh, how would people reach you? Is that how to reach you? If you
Well, I have a practice here
You
in New York
practice
City.
here?
Yes,
What's
I'm a
your
licensed
address?
nutritionist. Well, it is in the phone book if you want to look it up. Dr. Morris Woodley. And as I always point out to people, it's important that they go to a licensed nutritionist. Otherwise, you could be dealing with some sort of quack, some sort of charlatan. You never know what these people can be like. Now, what I do as a nutritionist is to counsel people on their diets.
Right.
That's what a nutritionist does. And my area of expertise is the relationship between diet and personality. Now, you know the old saying, you are what you eat?
Yeah.
Well, I have found that you are what you eat, but you even have the personality of what you eat. And this is what I have based the two books that are soon to be published, Victory Through Vegetables and I'm Okay, My Diet's Okay. This is what the books are about. And one example.
I see Dave already started something.
Dave,
Dave.
where you going, Dave?
This is an example.
Frank.
You see, now
All
the
right,
sugar.
that's too much sugar. Well, he probably
Well-
realized that he couldn't drink that, and that's why he left. But it's
No,
just
no,
as
no,
well.
no,
Let's
no,
just
you
do the
shouldn't-
show without him.
You see, you shouldn't discourage him from having all that sugar.
Why?
Because, you see, sugar is sweet. And it will make him have a sweeter personality. It'll make him have a nicer person. What you want to worry about is right here. You see,
Too
is
much
this
sugar is
citrus fruit.
no sugar is too much because the jar. I got no mind.
It's-
The candy
well, you brush
and
your teeth.
everything in the jar.
What you have to do is brush your
destroy
teeth.
my teeth.
And also,
But
you
you
hear
gotta
that
be
if it's
worried
too much
about
candy, it's not good for you. Too much sweet.
Good.
Well, you gotta brush your teeth. That's
Yeah,
true.
brush your teeth.
That's true. But I'm not a dentist. I'm a nutritionist.
And now about
It's
the
a
lemon.
question.
The lemon has too much.
But it's a citrus. You see, it's a citrus
Citrus.
fruit, and it's sour, it's bitter, and if you have too much of this, it'll make you sour. It'll make you bitter. That is the problem.
So it
This is
affects
what
your
you want.
personality, the way you.
Absolutely. Everything you eat will affect your personality. That would be true of you as well.
Okay.
Now you're kind of.
What do
a
you
timid-
think
You're kind of a timid person.
Well, I don't. Well.
Well, you are.
Maybe I don't know.
He slaps the vitamin out of your hand. You don't do anything about it. He's very mean to you. You just let him walk all over you.
Right.
You're a wimp. Now the problem
No,
with
why?
that, it comes from your diet. You probably eat a lot of chicken. And I'm sure, I can tell. You see, next time when you go to the store and you want to have something, you go to a fish market and you get yourself some shark. You can find that in fish markets. Now that is going to make you tougher. That's going to make you more assertive, and people aren't going to slap things out of your hands.
Right.
It's those kind of foods. And
Oh, he's coming back.
potatoes.
Let's see.
I bet you eat a lot of potatoes, don't you? French fries,
yes, I
things
have
like that?
lots of
Yes.
French fries at the
Well,
at
you
the.
see, that's the problem because
burger
the potato,
places.
The potato is a cowardly vegetable.
Uh-huh.
Where does it grow? Underground.
In the ground.
It hides in the dirt. It doesn't come out. It lurks down there. That's a cowardly vegetable. That's not the kind of thing you want to be eating. Now, if you want starch,
Right.
what I recommend to you is to have corn.
Right.
Now, the corn is a manly vegetable.
Chris,
corn,
Chris in the back, be quiet. Yeah, because we're on the show.
What does it do? It grows. It grows tall stalks. It stands tall and erect. It's out. It's in the sun. It's not afraid. It's not hiding. This is the kind of food that you should be eating if you want to have less of a timid personality.
Okay, now Dr. David missed because he went out when what you were saying, but
I was saying that the sugar is all right.
the sugar.
You need a lot of sugar because it'll make you have a sweeter personality.
So if he
That's what I'm
uses,
saying about the sugar. See, it's the lemon that he wants to stay away from.
See,
it's the
David?
citrus fruit that's bitter, it's sour, it makes him bitter, it makes him sour. That's what he has to stay away from.
David, don't throw things in the studio.
Now, this is the sort of thing.
So in other words,
to worry
he thought he was being smart having the iced tea, but really he ended up being sweet, which is the last thing that David wants to be.
Well, now he's not
he
exactly
showed-
sweet. I mean,
he
he'd
showed
have to
you.
be eating. He'd have to be having a lot more sugar than that, really, to be sweet. But if he didn't have that sugar, he'd be a lot meaner. I don't think you'd want that.
Well, he showed him because he thought he's being smart. Okay, I think it's time, Dr. Woodley. Thank you for that, and please stay with us. And now we're going to go see the puppets times. Who is that over there?
I don't know. My name is Kermit the Frog.
So,
Thank
Mitch,
for
you wanna-
inviting
you
me
wanna-
on your show here.
you want to
Yeah.
pause? Yeah. So, well, there it is. I mean, that's the basic idea. You have the personality of what you eat, which happened to work out. I don't recall. Did we know in advance that Dave was going to drink all that sugar?
The thing is, we rarely knew in advance anything that David was going to do. So I don't know if he brought that in. I don't, all of a sudden he exited the show. It was like, okay, is he coming back? So,
It's I can't recall anymore, but it works really well.
just
Although-
opportune.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think maybe that was coincidence. I don't know whether we planned it or not. I know we didn't plan anything with Chris Deola because he starts like talking when I'm talking, which was a little bit frustrating.
Chris was, Chris was very hard to direct. He had his own
Yeah,
ideas.
He had his own ideas. So a little after the fact, after the show, example of perhaps real life imitating art. Dave watched the portion of the show. He didn't see what was going on when he was off stage, so he watched it, I guess, in the control room after the show. And he came up to me afterwards, and he was a little bit annoyed that I'd been handling his lemon wedge. You know, the idea that someone was touching it. He didn't like the idea that someone was touching it.
Wow.
And so there's this weird parallel between on the show, he's okay with the sugar. You know, the sugar doesn't matter. He disregards the sugar. But he throws the lemon wedge across the room, which, again, he didn't. This doesn't relate to what happened afterwards because he didn't know at that point that I'd been handling the lemon. But in real life, he had the same sort of reaction, which is, oh, never mind the sugar. I'm not fussing over the sugar. What bothers me about this drink is that Pete touched the lemon wedge.
Wow, interesting. So we've learned another little aspect of David, maybe a little bit of a germaphobe, and I wonder how he managed through COVID. That must have been a struggle.
I don't know, and I don't remember anymore whether we're looking at the version of Dave which was also known as Mr. Serious, or the version of Dave that was Mr. Very Serious. I only know there was a version of Dave called Mr. Extremely Serious or Very Serious, and he said he warned us, you don't ever want to see that one. So we never went there with him.
All right, off to the puppet show. Here we go.
Oh, it's nice to have you, Hermit.
How you been?
I'm okay. How you doing there?
All right. I see you had a lady guest. Where's her? I tell her to come over.
Well, she's coming up. That's going to be Kerima the belly dancer. She's coming up, but I'm not.
I think she's down over here.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to see her yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You're wearing an American flag there. Is that for the holidays or what?
Yes, I have a special guest. And Lima, why didn't they tell one of your jokes out there, huh?
Oh, okay. Did you hear about why did they cut off the fish's nose? Because it smelled all the time. Okay, now let's see who our next guest is. And oh, look at that, it's
I know, my name is Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Hello, Mr. Ho.
What?
How are you?
Pity the fool, right?
Yeah, how you been doing? I have been very busy, you know. I've been appearing on your other shows, and I thought I'd say hello to you.
Well,
Let me be on your program here.
hello to you, Mr. T. What have you been up to lately?
Sometimes I used to work with you, but now I work with somebody else.
Okay.
I've been busy so much.
Well, however you get the work, I guess.
Yeah.
You want to, David, please, however you get the work is what you do, right?
Hey, why don't you have the doctor come over here to meet the other guy? Herman the Throat wants to meet him, you know?
Okay,
I'll be
Dr.
right back.
Woodley, would you like to meet the other guy? I don't know what.
The other, is this the frog again?
Yeah, that's wrong. My name is Herman. I'm right here. How are you?
Yes, hello.
How are you?
You're looking kind of green. It's probably too many string beans and
You
too much
look
lettuce.
at the camera. I never see everybody out there. See they're talking with us.
Dr.
My name is
Woodley.
Frank. How you doing, Frank?
I think he wants you back now.
Okay.
Yeah, you sit up there with us. What you doing?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So-
And I got a special guest. Another person wants to come up.
Who's-
He is from a night court.
Who's?
And
Oh,
his name is Richard.
that's one of my
Mo.
favorite
My name is
shows.
Richard Mo. How are you?
Oh, look at him.
My
Hi.
name is Richard Mo. This is my first appearance on this program of yours. I want to thank you very much.
You're the sheriff, right?
Yeah, I'm the sheriff. And on night court, I'm very busy. My boss and me work around in the courtrooms and stuff.
You keep everything in order at the night court.
Yeah, I do, you know?
All right. But
And I know that you do something special. You got a routine sometimes. You go on locations and you entertain, right?
that's right. The Beyond Vaudeville show goes live sometimes, and does children's parties and things.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You ever been on the Uncle Floyd show?
No.
We used to be way back, back in that time period, back in back in that years ago. You ever been on his program?
No, we haven't though. But okay,
I'm
maybe.
talking about the old station, Channel 68. Then Uncle Floyd moved to Channel 52. You know.
Okay,
I got
Kermit.
somebody.
Okay, anybody? One more now. Who else is here? How you doing, Kermit? Oops.
Oh.
All right.
I have no problem.
There you are.
We have one more guest. I know the time is very valuable.
Oh yes, because we have to bring out
I
the
got
belly dance.
somebody here from Channel 9.
Oh.
From Rocker Room. It's up there. I know.
Oh,
It's
up-
up there. How are you?
Up the.
I'd like to meet you. Huh?
Hi. Oh, how do you do?
All right. I
Yes.
want to thank Herman. Okay.
You're very colorful.
Yeah, I know, from Rubber Room, and the other boss told me to say hello. He said, love to the Drew Franklin from Channel 9 WOR.
Do you know the Doobie song?
Well, I didn't do that in a long time. I've been away, you know.
Okay. Well, all right. Maybe we better go on.
And Herman, I want to say so long and thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, guys. We'll see you
I'll
soon.
more in the future.
We'll always.
So
All
long.
right. Okay. Now, I have to go to the other mic. The phone. Okay. Now, Chris, maybe you'd like to talk a little more with the other guests while I set up the record for Kerima.
Oh, Kerima, yeah. Kerima was discovered, I think, by Richard H. Ruffin, because that's where I met her. She was on radio plus his cable TV show. Rena is every same as that belly dancer.
I understand she was.
What's? Oh, I'm
She was
sorry.
in Barefoot.
I thought that was you just interjecting now, Pete, but that was you on the show.
Right.
Okay.
in the Park. She was a belly dancer in Barefoot in the Park with
Okay.
Robert Redford.
Oh, he has a movie. That's what I forgot
Very
all
fun.
about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right, guys. Here's the official introduction. Kerima is the world-renowned Turkish belly dancer, and she danced all around the world and in the USA. And she's most famous in the nightclubs, but she also danced in the movie, like Dr. Woodley said, Barefoot in the Park. And let's enjoy while she belly dances. And I hope, David, you can enjoy this with all that sugar inside you, now that you're all sweet. Like Dr. Woodley said.
Yes.
The way she does her movements and everything is very, right? Each hand and each motion is a meaning or something to say.
Okay.
Pete, was this woman really in Barefoot in the Park in the movie?
I'm not entirely sure. It's plausible. It would be interesting to put the two performances side by side in a kind of a split screen.
Right.
In some ways, she does look a bit like the dancer in Barefoot in the Park, but I think a lot of belly dancers probably have similar kind of physiques that sort of lend themselves to that kind of dancing.
Right.
This would have been about 20 years after the movie, so age-wise, it's plausible. I tried to look up the credits, and it's you can watch that movie on Paramount Plus, but the credits are really, really minimal. The closing credits, it's one page, one screen of credits. I've never seen so few credits in a movie. And well, okay, the bottom line is she's not credited, so we can't go by the name.
Now, you actually went home with this woman after the taping?
Well, I wouldn't quite phrase it that way. I think one of my responsibilities was to take her home.
Got it. That's an
Because
important clarification.
yeah, yeah, and I remember being struck by the fact that she lived in a really nice building on the West Midtown, and thinking, oh, okay, she's doing pretty well in life. This is a nice doorman building, a big, well kept apartment building. Um, my strongest memory of Kerima, though, is actually something that kind of made me feel quite bad at the time, and that was she had no idea that I was a put on,
Oh.
and I just felt I couldn't break character and explain it to her. I'm not sure she really would have understood it. I didn't have a clear sense of her English fluency. I mean, she certainly spoke it adequately, but I don't know if she would have understood the humor, or perhaps attempt at humor.
So on the
but
whole cab, so after the taping, on the cab ride all the way back to her place, you continued to be Dr. Woodley?
well, I tried to say. I tried not to talk too much, because here's the problem. She wanted to make an appointment with me. She wanted a consultation. She wanted to become a patient because she'd found a doctor who had told her it was okay to eat lots of sweets. And I think she really wanted to embrace the idea that it was okay for her to eat lots of sweets. Now, of course, that wasn't, I mean, the whole thing is made up, right? The whole thing is nonsense. It was supposed to be a joke, but I felt bad because she took it seriously, and I didn't really foresee that consequence.
Well,
It wasn't my message, though. My message was not it's okay to eat sweets. My message was you've got Dave Green. He's really irascible, and for him to counteract his sour personality,
balance out.
balance it out, he should eat a lot of sweets. I wasn't saying that it's okay for anybody to have a lot of sweets, and I feel a little ridiculous trying to defend a ridiculous character like Dr. Woodley. But I genuinely felt bad that
you mentioned her apartment building, and I'll let you in on something. I don't know if you were aware of this, but we also had her sister, Shentuna Lawson, was on the show on an early episode. She had written love letters to Burt Reynolds and ended up in the tabloids. And anyway, sometime after this appearance, there was a big story in the New York Post. It might have even made page one, about how it was her and possibly her sister were scamming the city and pretending to fall on city sidewalks, and had successfully sued, I believe. It's been a while since I've read these stories, but and they had a bunch of these lawsuits, and the city finally caught up with them.
Okay. Yes, it's coming back to me now. I mean, just to be clear, the thing that sort of bothered me was that I wound up insulting her by sort of blowing her off, so to speak, when she wanted my card, and I kept saying, I'm in the phone book, and that was the and I think that made her, I think it upset her that I wouldn't wouldn't agree to take her on as a patient. I wasn't upset about the nonsense that I was talking about. I mean, it was all ridiculous, but I did hurt her feelings because I rejected her as a patient.
Well, it's probably just as well you might have been sued for malpractice, given her litigiousness.
Well, yeah, who knows? But if I had told her that she could eat lots of sweets, I think I would have become her favorite doctor. Just
All right.
just a weird twist to the story.
So
Do we know what ultimately happened to the two sisters? Did they
I
go
don't
to
know. I've
prison?
lost touch with both of them. Chris Deola is still with us. But we'll go back to the interview. Now she's going to come sit down for the interview. Here we go.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Kerima. That was very nice. Maybe if you could just get your microphone there and join us. Now, you have danced all around the world.
Yes.
And we're very happy to have you on our program.
Thank you.
You're the first belly dancer we ever had on. Chris needs a seat. You can just sit there, Chris. There's another. Okay. Chris has the sign that says where to get in touch with Kerima. Okay.
At the camera. See, wait a second. Her address is what? The phone number is what? 245-8322, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be sure to call. Oh, yeah.
All right, David.
Yeah.
No.
This way you can reach.
Oh, yeah, everybody call this number.
David, look, it's
Yeah.
not going to be, if you keep it up, Chris will be the only host
Oh,
on the
yeah.
show.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. All right. Don't start in, because.
Frank,
All right, go ahead, Chris.
let's get back to you got your guest over here, and it's called, she does the belly dance, right? And you can reach us for entertainment too, right? Or you can do movie or production, right?
Yes.
This is our phone number, don't forget, right? From
Okay,
New York area.
Chris, talking to the mic. Okay. Now you are originally from Turkey,
Yes.
which is a very beautiful place. You were telling me that it's very nice, and you're going to be going back there for a little while, just to,
Yes, I'm going for a couple months.
right? And what is so nice about Turkey? What's so special about it?
Well, it's the most beautiful city in the world, Istanbul.
Even nicer than New York, even.
Of course, it's beautiful. It looks like San Francisco.
And the food, how do you like Turkish food?
Turkish food is great if you like that kind of food.
Do you recommend the food, Dr. Woodley, for a nutritional?
Well, I'm not all that familiar with the kind of food that they have there in that part of the world.
Like stuffed grape leaves,
Oh, that's, yes.
stuffed
that's
green
good.
peppers, shish kebab.
Oh, I got a question. Why you got into the show business?
I love show business.
What made you get into it?
And I love to dance. I am in show business all my life. I started as a child.
Oh, the child.
Okay, David, do you have any questions for any of the guests so far? Or do you want to, maybe just you don't want to ask any?
You know,
Okay.
you might need more sugar. You want to offer?
No, I don't think you should bring the sugar up.
No?
Don't bring the sugar up, because he doesn't want any more. Only when he wants it, he has the sugar. Okay.
Mitch, how much time we have?
All right, how much time do we have, Mitch? What do we have? 8 minutes
8 minutes
left.
well, yeah.
Okay, Kerima, would it be possible for you to show us some dance movements and maybe teach us how to do
Yes.
this?
Oh, you do the belly dance.
All right,
Yeah.
maybe we can try it and see what we can do.
I could do Orient participation.
Okay. Let's put the
You want me to go up?
the plug went out on the record player.
So the record player plug had been pulled out because Chris was constantly moving and he was running around back behind the set when we were doing the interview and kicked out the plug. It took a little while to realize that, I think. Pete, we're getting a question from Reed Transistor asking, why did she wear a wig? Well, Reed, I guess we have to wonder, you're presuming she's wearing a wig. We don't know this for certain, right? Pete?
I'm going with the questioner on this. I think it is a wig, and I guess it's just part of her costume. I think the performer in Barefoot in the Park was also wearing a wig.
Ah, okay. So this might help add to the argument that that was indeed Kerima in Barefoot in the Park. All right, let's continue.
Well,
What happened?
Frank, want me to come over?
Okay, well, I don't have. Is there any music in the control room that we can put on? Or we don't. The thing's not working on the record player. I don't know what's happening to the. Is there anything on the? Chris, can you find something that's?
Let's see where.
All right, the plug goes in there.
I know. The plug is in. And the
Mitch, you know where the plug is? We need.
record player seemed to go in.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, it's not on. All right. No, Chris, no. All right. Wait. All right. We'll get.
All right.
It's not going.
It's not going. It's something.
It's not going on, Mitch. All right. Just hold on a second. Mitch
This
is
has
gonna.
never usually happens. It almost reminds me of my old show. Okay, looks like Frank we got a little.
I don't know what happened. It's a technical problem.
By the way, you catch that line by Chris? He said, well, this never happened on my show. So Chris had this great public access show, Change Yourself, But Not the World. And we have one of the episodes posted on the Beyond Vaudeville YouTube page. But obviously, Chris was a big inspiration to me. We all need our heroes. And Chris was one of mine. Obviously, the puppets and the handwritten signs and the loose formatting. He was definitely a very influential person with us.
And you have the sign that he prepared, right?
Yeah, actually I do. This was a sign that he had written for us years ago, suggesting we use this instead for the opening credits.
So yeah, hold that up for a second, because when I first saw that sign, this was of course many years ago, I said, okay, he can't. All right, he can't spell. But it dawned on me later, when you look at it, it says Vaudeville or Vaudeville, maybe some extra syllables in there. But I actually think what he's done there is he's combined the word variety with the word vaudeville.
Oh.
And so they're two different words that refer to essentially the same kind of theatrical tradition, right? Because another word for vaudeville is variety.
So you think he was coining a phrase, a term?
I'm going to give him credit here, and I'm going to say that he knew that variety and vaudeville, two words for what is basically the same thing, certainly by modern standards, and he kind of put them together. I'm not saying he was trying to create a new word, but I think it's not a simple spelling error. I actually think he was conflating in some way those two words, and it's actually a little bit interesting that he comes up with
maybe
that.
a happy accident. I guess we'll never know for sure.
But I'm gonna give him the credit for that word.
And Bailey George is saying in the chat, looks like the record player is an Imperial Party Time Model 101. Wow, Bailey, sharp eyes there. I couldn't confirm that for you. Trey's World is saying the pants and Beat It. I always wanted to ask, did you keep a lot of the novelty collectible props on the show? And did you keep the clothes? Yeah, there's still plenty of that around, Trey. Not all of it. The moths might have gotten to some of it. Actually, the moths might have gotten to some of those clothes even before we recorded the shows.
I don't think a moth could possibly eat those fabrics. You're looking at 100% polyester in those slacks. I think a moth would not touch them. In fact, I think that you could wrap wool in those pants and that would keep the moths away.
A moth might gag on them. Okay, let's continue.
Should we get with?
The timing, don't forget.
All right.
We're losing a little bit.
Is it going on?
Well, this is live TV, we're usually called. until something happened. Now the belly dancer's on.
All right, Chris, maybe you can give her address once again.
Oh, yes,
Karima's
the
address.
in the meanwhile.
And
Usually Mrs. Nancy
so where it is?
Now the record player, we're up to music.
Okay. And it's not going.
Maybe she should do without the music, and in the meanwhile she does the dancing.
Oh, is that possible, Kerima? Could you show us?
Maybe, do you want to do it?
I don't.
No, not. She's a dancer.
Yes, yes.
Do you need the music, Kerima, to show us how to?
Do the belly
Yes.
dance, and the music is.
Okay. It's no good?
And Tima, well, it's
Okay.
right the time, you know.
All right. Well, let's go back to talking then, I guess. But could you show us, Kerima, without music?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you show us what to do? And Dave, you want to come up and do it too? Maybe. Why don't you come
I
up?
think he's better to skip.
Okay.
No, it's not, hasn't had enough sugar. He's
Maybe
not ready.
maybe this does. Okay. Okay.
Now this is the belly dance, right, Frank? Watch
Right.
the boys, okay?
Oh, the record player's going. It fixed. Okay.
It's moving the record player.
All right.
Wait, stop.
Now you start.
No, it stopped again. Okay. Okay. All right. Until it starts again. Now, what do we do? Chris, you want to try? You want to try?
What, let me, yeah. It's like this live TV, usually with the microphone. Okay, let me see.
Chris, come on. You just come over with
I want to join the dancing,
Okay. Oh, turn the volume.
Now it's going. Right.
Pete, you were saying, so when you see her stomach, does it look similar to the Barefoot in the Park movie that she said she was in?
Well, what I would say is it's possible that it's the same stomach 20 years later. I think so.
Glad we got the music going there.
That was something. Just learning about belly dance. I learned about dancing through the movies and watching on TV like Fred Astaire and all that dance, even something from her.
But Fred Astaire never did the belly dancing,
The
though.
belly dancing was in some other type of movie. She was in that Robert Redford thing, and that's remind me.
Did-
That was back, I think, in '66 or '65.
The movie with the Robert Redford was
68, 69, something.
Like that. That picture she was in.
in the park, in the
That was a
park
very good
movie.
picture. That picture got awards too. I think 5 or 6 awards.
Well, I'll tell you, David, David missed something by not dancing. You should have danced. You should have danced with us because you missed a lot of fun we had with Kerima showing us how to do the dance.
It's the citrus fruit.
Well, okay. The show is very entertaining now because now we have information as well. We learned about nutrition and we learned about about belly dancing. It's a very instructional, informative program as well as entertaining. Okay, we're closing down to a minute. Any closing words, Dr. Woodley?
Well, you know, for people who are suffering from
Your
iron,
mic?
iron poor blood.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. For people who are suffering from iron poor blood, you know, there's a lot of iron in just regular, ordinary nails. If you just suck on a nail, and you will get all the iron that you need. It's much cheaper than buying vitamin pills.
Okay.
Just suck
And
on a nail.
Karima, any last words? Any gigs you have coming up where we can see you? Or you'll be at the clubs and
Yes,
And
and I will let you know.
doing-
I have a lot of engagements.
various engagements.
I will get in touch with you.
And this
Okay.
Is her, Frank, this is her phone, Kerima.
Right.
And her phone tells us 202-212-245-8322.
Okay, Dave, any last
Oh, wait
words?
a minute. What's
yes.
a good time for somebody to call you up? What's a good time for people to call you up?
And they can call anytime.
Oh, anytime.
Okay, we have to play our closing
Frank,
song.
Frank.
Our closing
And
song
I'm
from
in the
Andy
phone book
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to get in
Before
touch
we
with
go,
me.
Right,
what?
hold
And
that
I'm
up,
phone
Chris.
book.
Okay, Frank Cope, don't forget to reach the right home.
And there the music comes up. And boy, it seemed like David was especially miserable on this episode.
Well, that might have been a combination of the guests and the sugar.
It's
think
just,
that was-
it's amazing to see how long that took to get that record player going. And, but we never stopped. Everything just would keep going.
No, I think there's only one time that you cut tape.
There might have been an occasion or two where we did, but it was really rare. Bailey is saying, I believe her sister made it on some album covers in the late 1960s for some store labels like Topps or Somerset. Wow. If that's true, Bailey, please let us know more about that. Hit us up on social media if you find any of those pictures, because that would be a fascinating thing to see. So Pete, I thank you for doing this tonight and joining us on Thanksgiving Eve. And I hope those that are watching this are not driving while they're trying to watch this. But I wanted one thing I wanted to ask you about was when you were back in high school, wasn't there when the Beastie Boys were forming an early version of the band? Didn't they want you to be a part of it?
Well, okay, no one's ever gonna believe any of this. So,
Well, especially now that they know you as Dr. Morris Woodley. But okay, so let's put that aside for now. And legitimately, you did go to school with the Beastie Boys. You went to high school with those guys.
Well, with one of them, I mean, it would be an exaggeration, it'd be an enormous exaggeration to say that I was ever affiliated in any way, shape, or form with the Beastie Boys. I went to high school with one, and I was reasonably friendly with him. I was more friendly with his older brother, and I would spend time in their apartment, hanging out, mostly with the older brother, but sometimes with the younger brother who went on to be in one of the Beastie Boys. And he did talk to me about wanting to form a band. And this was in high school, of course, and he wanted to know, if I had any interest in that. And I said no. So that's really not at all the Beastie Boys. This is a guy who would go on to form the Beastie Boys, but back when he was in high school, he was looking for people to be in his high school band. And he wanted to know if I would be interested in that.
But if you had said yes, who knows where that might have gone?
Well, I'll tell you what the actual conversation was, which I can't imagine anybody's actually going to believe, but take it or leave it. I think what I said to him was to the effect of, I don't have any, I think I said, I have no musical talent. And I think what he said was, well, neither do I, but that's not going to stop me. Now that was untrue. It was true about me that I have no musical talent. It wasn't true of him. But It does express his attitude, and that attitude can be seen in the Beastie Boys.
And he was just being modest, probably. And which one of the Beastie Boys was this?
This
Adam or
no. Last name is Diamond. Michael?
Oh,
Michael?
okay, yeah.
Is that his first name?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Help us out in chat if anyone's.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, this is one of those stories. I don't want it exaggerated. It's a little throwaway conversation about a high school band, and this is someone who obviously had tremendous talent and went on to become a big deal.
Okay.
It was just one of those little moments.
And then one other story I remember that you telling me, which maybe I'm not remembering this correctly, but at one point, your family. Thank you, George Langley. His name is Mike Diamond. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. He played drums, according to George. The other question I had for you was, I know you had a cat.
I remember when he got his first drum set. I remember that.
Ah, okay.
I remember that.
And so I remember you had a cat and in your family's apartment, and the cat was shedding a lot, and your family attempted to vacuum the cat. Am I remembering this story correctly?
Well, yes. It was, not my father's best idea that he ever had. And it was fairly early on, I guess, in our days of cat owners. I mean, eventually we learned, well, okay, you can get a brush, and the brush will capture the hairs, and that's kind of how you control the hairs. And of course, cats love to be brushed, and so it was a win-win. But yes, he did have this idea of maybe using the extension tube and just gently kind of going over the cat, and perhaps just gently removing some of the loose fur. Yes, it went very poorly, and we both learned a lesson about how to care for your cat. So I discourage anything of the sort, but they do love to be brushed. This cat would just sit for 30 minutes, 45 minutes while I brushed him, and he purred
as long
the
as you
whole
kept
time.
the vacuum in the closet.
The vacuum, yes. Well, the problem wasn't really the vacuum cleaner at all. I mean, the suction from the vacuum cleaner would have been quite gentle. I don't actually think it would have caused any kind of harm. The problem was it was noisy, and they're very sensitive to the loud noise. He was very scared by the loud noise, and he just didn't want to be anywhere near a loud machine, and that was a lesson learned, mostly by my father, who got a really nasty bite from the cat, as I recall. My father.
Well, we've learned a lot tonight, everybody. We've learned not to vacuum your cat, and
don't vacuum your cat.
And we've learned from Pete some of his experiences with Beyond Vaudeville, and it's been a really interesting time spent with you, Pete. You were often working the cameras on the show, but I guess before we go, what was it like working the cameras on Beyond Vaudeville? Because I get frustrated sometimes, with some of the old shows that the cameras weren't even white balanced sometimes, not through any fault of yours. They were supposed to set that stuff up when we got there, and you were supposed to point and shoot and zoom and do your thing. What was it like using the equipment at these public access studios?
Well, as I recall, we were at least three. I can remember at least three studios. One was way uptown in Inwood, and one was East 23rd Street, and one was somewhere Midtown West.
West 59th, yeah.
Yeah, there's okay. So they all had their problems, and
which could be expected for $59 for a half-hour shoot.
Well, yeah, this is public access. This is a whole different concept that I don't think people quite can relate to nowadays. But one of the things that the cable company had to do in order to get the franchise they had to make a channel available to the public, and people would come on, and I remember it was a lot of porn, and it was a lot of well, I shouldn't say porn, that's not really true, but it was there were like adult entertainers who would perhaps do like a talk show or something, and this woman would be naked, and her guests would come on naked, and I think who's the fellow who had Screw magazine? Is that Goldstein?
Al Goldstein, yeah.
Yeah, he had one. And then there was this peculiar guy who had this portable camera equipment back in the days when that equipment was really heavy.
Yes,
and he'd go
Ugly
up to
George.
women. Ugly George. Yeah, he'd
Yeah.
go up to women and he'd convince them to disrobe. And I don't think any of it was a put on. I think he genuinely approached women on the street, and they genuinely found some relatively private place, and they disrobed. And so it was all kind of tawdry, and the facilities were really pretty bad. My recollection is that the single worst piece of equipment was the thing that they bragged the most about, and that was the really high quality professional tripod heads. And you had to take a class, and they said the main reason why we're going to make you take a class on how to use the studio is these are really expensive heads. We don't want you to damage them. Well, the heads were just awful, because you'd position the camera, a one shot, a two shot, whatever it was, and it was fairly static, because this was a talk show, so people didn't move around that much. Even someone singing would just stand up and sing. So you'd get the shot. And we had two, maybe sometimes three cameras. I know there were at least two. And so I might be given an assignment to have basically the same shot for the entire show. So I'd position it, and then I'd lock it, and then I'd hear over the headphones Steve from the control room. He'd be saying, "Pete, your camera is out of position." And the thing is, I didn't want to hold the camera because I wanted it really steady. And my hands are obviously not perfectly steady. So I wanted to lock it, and then I wanted to take my hands off it. But you couldn't, because it would drift. And so I had to hold it the whole time. And I mean, that's my chief memory, that I had to hold this, and that's actually doing that for like 30 minutes and not wanting to move even a millimeter was a challenge.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Challenges technically, and as we saw tonight, keeping guests in place like Chris, who wanted to keep moving around and bouncing all around, but somehow we all survived. And I thank you, Pete, for all those years of help that you did on the show, and I thank you for joining us here tonight.
Well, this was an interesting, nostalgic experience that I will be sure to mention to absolutely no one.
All right. And I want to thank everybody who came tonight into the chat and to watch. We have 2 more live streams this Thanksgiving weekend. We have Suzanne Muldowney on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, talking about Thanksgiving and the Thanksgiving parade and how important that was to her in her youth. And then on Saturday night, we are going to be doing a tribute to Buddy Clayton, the late, great Buddy Clayton, with his daughter, Melody, who will be there to talk with us about his life and his career. If you like what you see, please hit like, hit subscribe. Be sure to tell your friends about our live streams, about the Beyond Vaudeville shows that are there. Don't forget to go to our Etsy site, Beyond Vaudeville, one word, where you can get such great stuff as this, a T-shirt featuring our original card for the show that was used for many years. That's it, everybody.
Are you going to do a Beyond Vaudeville T-shirt?
Maybe.
Yeah, put me down for one of those.
Let us know if you'd like to see that on a T-shirt. I know Pete would.
Yeah, I would buy one of those. Buddy Clayton was a drummer, right?
Buddy Clayton, he was an entertainer. He was a showman, singer,
Okay.
dancer.
Okay.
Pete, you said you would buy a T-shirt with this on it, but would you actually wear it?
I would, yeah, I would. I maybe mostly around the house, but no, I might. Yeah, sure.
All
Why
right.
not?
Well, maybe we'll make it just to
Why
take
not?
on that
I mean,
challenge.
the only parting memory here is I didn't need to ask you back in the day, right, when there was this cable TV, public access. I didn't need to ask you when the show would air. I could just tell by the way people would stare at me on the street the next morning. And I'd say, "Oh, Rich must have aired the episode last night," because people would actually look at me and people would actually come up to me. And I don't think anyone ever, well, maybe one person at a high school reunion said, "Hey, I saw you on some freaky talk show." But other than that, no one ever seemed to know what the connection was. They'd come up to me and they'd say, like, "Where do I know you from? Did we go to school together? Who are you?" And it's sort of interesting because the audience was tiny, right? I mean, it was Manhattan, and I don't even know that it was all of Manhattan because my recollection is there were different cable companies, east side or west side, uptown, downtown. I don't remember exactly how the island was
Right.
divided.
But
here it is with this streaming, which this broadcast, whatever you want to call it, this streaming program, which I guess theoretically is available to an enormous audience, but
yes.
I'm reasonably confident nobody's going to come up to me tomorrow and say, "Did I go to school with you?"
Well, if you run into anyone sucking on a nail, chances are they saw you on the show.
Yes.
Pete, thank you so much for doing this. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And be sure to join us again on Friday for our Suzanne Muldowney live stream. Thank you, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Good night.